Following the 2021 local government elections, when the ANC lost key metros to coalitions, many people saw a likely coalition government as both national and provincial levels from 2024. But given the current instability within municipal coalitions, many analysts say coalitions would not work at a national level. Good evening and welcome to Unfiltered. I'm your host this evening. My name is Aldrin Simpier. Meanwhile, the DA is set has already actually launched an urgent court application, which was heard a bit earlier on today, to interdict the notice issued by the acting speaker of the city of Johannesburg, Colleen Makubele, for a council meeting on Tuesday, that is tomorrow. Our question this evening is, are coalition governments sustainable? Let's welcome our guest this evening. Pule Mabe is the spokesperson for the ANC nationally. We also have co-councillor and chair of chairs at the city of Johannesburg, Colleen Makubele, as well as Gauteng leader of the Democratic Alliance here in the province, Solly Msimang. Meanwhile, the DA, as I said earlier on, has launched that urgent application and we're now awaiting judgment from the High Court. Colleen, you're following that court case. When can we expect that judgment?
Thank you, Adrian, and good evening to the viewers. We're expecting it any minute now. The judge had said within an hour, but I've just received news that by 9 o'clock we should have the judgment.
The mayor in the city of Johannesburg is accusing you of staging a corrupt coup.
One-seat party staging a corrupt coup. Look, I think the reality is that the DA is in a crisis. And they're trying to create a crisis in the city, and we are not in a crisis. The DA did not win elections. They only have 70 seats, and they are unable to govern with other parties because of the white supremacy. They're power hungry, they are dictators in the coalition, and that is causing strains. And the vote of no confidence on Dagama is no means indication of a coup. It just means that we've exercised our democratic right as councillors to vote out a speaker that we thought was not fit for purpose, the speaker that was impartial, that was receiving instruction elsewhere instead of serving the council and the councillors. As we'd have witnessed, the decorum of council had really collapsed, and it was time that he be removed, and we exercised that democratic right. And if that means it's a coup, I don't know, because this is really what our founding fathers have fought so hard, you know, for us to enjoy the freedoms that are enshrined in our constitution.
Let me just quickly ask you, on the basis of the meeting that will be taking place tomorrow, which is of course a subject of that court judgment that we are waiting for, the argument is that there is no law that gives you the right as chair of chair to assume that position as acting speaker of the council. So which law do you rely on?
In fact, as we discovered today in court, there actually is no law that prohibits me either. Because as the chair of chairs, there's the rules, standing rules and orders of council, Rule 19, that enables me and empowers me automatically to be the acting speaker in the absence of the speaker. So the interpretation of that rule and of course the laws that empower that rule was debated in court today for over 4 hours. What DA thought would be a 1 hour court interdict, it really was an intense debate. So I am within my rights as an acting speaker of council to call that council meeting until a court order comes and says otherwise.
Let me just quickly hear from Solly Msimang. Based on this application that was heard at the High Court, Solly, is the Democratic Alliance still standing by its argument that the Municipal Structures Act does not give Colleen the powers to assume the position of acting speaker?
Yes, thank you very much, Eldrin, and good evening to the viewers and to the fellow panelists. It doesn't. The law is very, very clear that there's no such a position as a deputy speaker or an acting speaker. The speaker will actually nominate, when a vacancy or when he cannot preside over an issue, he will then nominate, who will then be presiding over a meeting. If there is no speaker, like what we're having right now, and nobody is nominated, it is then responsibility of the city manager to preside over a meeting where a speaker will then be, presiding over a meeting until such time as, then the speaker is actually elected. And this is what we have been saying in a court of law. But I find it very interesting, Eldrin, Colleen's opening remarks that this is a DA process. This is not a DA process. This is a multi-party coalition process, including the organization that he says that she says that she's representing. The organization that has said very, very openly that they don't agree with what she's doing, that they stand firmly against what she's doing, and everything that she has been saying has been proven and has been said even by the leaders of her own organization as untruths. And therefore, this is where we find ourselves here today. And hopefully, sanity will prevail and the court will rule, that, there are processes that needs to be followed. Those will be followed.
Yep. Okay. The spokesperson of the ANC nationally, Pule Mabe, also joining us for this conversation. Pule, good evening. Thank you so much for making time for us. What's the ANC's interpretation of what is happening with the coalition government that's being led by the Democratic Alliance? I know Colleen doesn't like the idea of calling it a Democratic Alliance-led coalition, and she says that even when the ANC, for instance, if you were to work together, it can't be an ANC-led coalition. However, though, what's your interpretation of what's unfolding in the city of Johannesburg?
Well, evening, Aldrin, and evening to the viewers and the fellow panelists. It is quite clear here. I hear what Dadem Simang is raising, but I don't know how a school principal who has been chucked out of their position will have the authority to appoint an acting principal. I don't need to be a member of council. It's obvious. You are a presenter here at the SABC. You must then appoint another Aldrin to come and preside. It doesn't happen like that. The speaker ceases to be a speaker at a point when a motion of no confidence is passed against them. They can no longer make any injunctions in the life of council. This is not even law, it's common sense. There is nothing else. More SABC, if they say, Aldrin, we are parting ways with you. You can't say, no. Before I go home, can I just appoint an acting presenter for my show? It doesn't happen. Dagama stopped being a speaker at a point when the motion was passed. What the DA and all other parties need to appreciate is that being in a coalition compels parties to implement manifestos of those different parties. If I lead infrastructure in council, even if I was appointed by a mayor of the DA, it then means that what I execute there would be the plan of my party. Coalitions are based on compromise. The inability of the emergence of coalitions where there is no appreciation of compromise create this dilemma. It is the people of Johannesburg who have to bear the brand of all of this. If this was just as simplistic as the DA wants to interpret the law, why did they go to court? Why didn't they just apply? Let me just conclude.
Okay.
They would simply have effected common sense, their own common sense. But they went to court because they realized that they need the court of instance to be able to pronounce itself. You see, Aldrin, you have got an option. As a law-abiding citizen, if you don't believe that the laws of this country are supreme, if you do not believe in the Constitution, the Municipal Structures Act that is today being quoted, why are you going to court? Why don't you do what people who are driven by belief do? This is my belief and I stand by my belief. But because they know that their own interpretation could also be flawed, as a law-abiding political party in the Republic of South Africa, they agreed to go to, actually, they initiated a court process because they are alive to the fact that it is only a court that can pronounce on their own interpretation. If their interpretation was academic, accepted by everyone, surely there was no need to go to court. You are going to court because you want to test your own understanding.
Okay, when we come back, let's have a conversation about what happens in those multi-party coalitions. What exactly are the powers of the members of those multi-party coalitions? As we know as well with the Democratic Alliance, that this time around they said that let there be an agreement and let there be signatures to that agreement, and COPE being one of those organizations that part of the multi-party organization, then why do you have a situation where you have one of its councillors that have voted in a motion of no confidence against Vasco da Gama? That conversation when we come back. And welcome back as we focus on coalition governments and whether they are part of the future of this country. We know that countries like Denmark say that they have had coalition governments for years now and it has been perfectly stable. Is that a route that this country should be exploring? But how do we get to that level of actually having stability within coalition governments? Because they tend to be very unstable. And even if there is an agreement that is signed, as is the case with the DA-led coalition in the city of Johannesburg, you still do run the risk that some members of the coalition government may not adhere to whatever it is that the coalition government has agreed to. Colleen, would you say that that's the case with you as well? Considering, as Soli was saying earlier on as well, that the leader of your party had said that this is not an instruction that you gotten from the party.
Let me correct that, because this is exactly why the coalition is not working. Where you find another party interfering in the politics of the next party. There is no leader of my party that has said they don't agree with me. There was Ntate Bloem, who went out without a party mandate to make statements and promises under the pressure of Helen Zille, the DA, who instructed them. Zille instructed every party to fire all the councillors that voted against Vasco da Gama. And Ntate Bloem didn't... Is
this in the letter that was...
Yes, yes. And Ntate Bloem had no mandate to say that. And I'm not going to say anything further than that because you understand the politics of my party. I'm still here. I'm a councillor. I've got the support of my president. My region had fully mandated me. A statement was released. So this is exactly a classic example of why DA will never be a governing party in this country, because of their white supremacy, want to dominate, want to control each and every party. You see, a coalition is an agreement to govern together, to make joint decisions together with respect to the governance of the city, service delivery, and everything else that pertains to the running of the city. But the coalition agreement also makes provision where, as a party, you don't agree with a certain thing that you're not going to vote with a coalition. You have that provision. And we exercise that provision. We told them we're not going to retain Vasco da Gama. These are our reasons. And it's not the first time, let me tell you, we don't vote with a coalition. It never collapsed. It's just because now we've hit the nerve. The one-seat parties that at the time, when we were voting in council, when they didn't need our 6 hands or 4 hands, they had the numbers, they could just pass the decisions. It was never a crisis nationally. And we were not blamed. There was no bribe. We abstained from votes. We didn't vote with the coalition.
By the ANC to say that
when I voted for the ANC on the 1st of November, I voted, I nominated Councillor, the late Councillor Mpomwerani, as the mayor of Joburg. I was not bribed. When my party changed to join this coalition, I was not bribed to vote with them. If the mayor of the city of Joburg bribed people to vote her for mayorship, she needs to come out and say so. I'm a new councillor. Yeah. I don't know this system of bribing people. And if there is such a bribe, they went to the police station, they created a hoo-ha. Can we please have their evidence and their records so that we deal with it, instead of making this noise in the media?
So, Pule, what we find with coalition governments sometimes is that you will have that accusation that comes that says that there are people who have been bribing other councillors to vote in a certain way. The ANC this time around being accused again, but also back in 2012, I think, where we 2016, this was 2016 local government elections, where there was a council sitting in the city of Johannesburg, and it was the EFF actually that accused the ANC and saying that the ANC is trying to bribe its members not to vote for Herman Mashaba. What do you make of these allegations that surface during moments of like these, where it seems like a coalition government is about to collapse?
Well, it's to us really, it appears more like gallery talk. The African National Congress has been able to hand over power to whatever party that won. When the DA enjoyed majority in Nelson Mandela Bay, now Gqeberha, in the city of Johannesburg, in Ekurhuleni, in Tshwane, we were the first to stand and embrace them. The late Mpomwerani was the first to embrace the mayor of Joburg, who is now on borrowed time, when she was elected. But she should have understood that being in a coalition could also mean saving for 3 months, saving for 1 week, and all of that. I do not know of a party that emerges through a coalition and suddenly wants to believe that they can run the full term. Because if you do not meet the minimum agreements of the coalition partners, you run the risk of being removed. The people of Johannesburg, in their majority, affirmed the ANC. If we talk majority, ANC ICDA with 1 vote. We are honoring them with a proper majority. So we don't have to go and bribe anyone to vote for the ANC. You see, if the DA was not scared, if the DA understood that they did not win power, there is no need for Ntateso Limsimang to speak on behalf of COPE. He has got an option. If he does not believe fully in the DA, I cannot change her, I join a COPE. But he can't speak on behalf of COPE.
Yeah.
COPE has got their own representatives, they've got their own politics. The ANC has never had a platform where it sought to interfere with politics of other parties. What this thing exposes, it exposes the lack of insight on how you manage coalitions in metros as complicated as ours here in Gauteng.
Are you ready to take over Johannesburg as the ANC?
He was the mayor of Tshwane,
yeah.
and we never disrupted him. We allowed him to run. Look, we contested elections. It means from the day we contested elections and fielded a mayor, we've always been ready to take over.
Okay, Soli, a quick response to what you've just heard now.
Well, first of all, let's correct a few things. Nobody has ever called Colleen as she's sitting there. Helen Zille has never certainly spoken a word to Colleen. I don't think they've even met.
Well, she said the letter was sent to her leader.
There was never a letter that was coming from Helen Zille. Let me put that on record. That's number one. Number two, there are three levels to the coalition agreement. I'm sure you would have read the coalition agreement, Eldrin. It says at a local level, you have a multi-party caucus which meets on a daily basis or when needs be to discuss and deal with issues at that level. And then when those issues cannot be resolved at the local level, we do have what we call the technical committee, which meets on an ongoing basis. That is consisting of, a party representative at a provincial, at a national level, which I do sit on, and we able to then on an ongoing basis get things that are escalated from a local level, and then we get to deliberate on those and then assist them in finding solutions. And then you have what we call the COG. The COG is the coalition oversight group, which consists of all the party leaders that get together and deal with issues on an ongoing basis. This is why every time the COG is met, you would see that there will be a multi-party statement that comes out that says this is what the multi-party has concluded on. Not once has Action SA, not once has the Freedom Front, not once has COPE come out and said, there are issues that we're not agreeing on, and therefore we are going to do what Colleen is doing. Colleen is just being rogue and is just lying. I'm putting it to you. She's just lying now, to say that there are frustrations, because none of these things has ever, even once, been raised in the multi-party coalition agreement or even raised at a technical committee. If that is the case, Ntatelo Kota must come and say, these are the issues that we raised at the COG level or at a technical committee level, and these issues were never, dealt with. I can tell you right now that is not true. But let me also address something that Ntate Pule is raising here. I think there's a sense of self-induced amnesia here. Ntate Pule, you are saying you have never really pushed against the DA-led coalition. I think you have been doing that from day one. And we have footage that shows that you have never really given power without violence. We've seen councillors in Tshwane. We've seen councillors in Gqeberha hitting people with just with glass jars, and it goes on and on. So I think we need to be honest here, because history doesn't have a blank page, and we can then go into history about some of these things. But here's the last thing that I want to raise, Eldrin. Ntate Mari says that I said that Vasco wanted, after being removed, wanted to appoint the next speaker. That's not what I said.
The person who's going to preside.
In the absence of, I'm saying to you, in the absence of a appointed speaker, the city manager becomes the presiding officer. That's what I said. And that remains the truth, and that remains law. Procedurally, that is what is written in black and white. This is why I said to you, there's no such a thing as a deputy speaker. There's no such a thing. And by the way, that's the letter that Colleen sent out to say she's a deputy speaker, and she quickly retracted that while she was pointed out that there's no such a thing as a deputy speaker. And then, therefore, you only have the court to then preside over this thing, because what the ANC want to do is that they want to still use Colleen and others to then say, well, while we still at it, let's gather in an illegal meeting and make sure that we then put a motion of no confidence against the mayor of Johannesburg. And this is why we've decided to go to court, to then say there are very strict principles that in place and laws that are in place to be able to then be followed. And this is why we're asking the court of law to make that ruling.
Okay, let's quickly go to a quick act break. When we come back, then we'll have, I see that you're burning. Colleen is burning to respond to Mr. Msimanga. That conversation when we come back. And welcome back. Let's quickly look at some of the tweets that you've sent through, and then we'll be getting some closing remarks. Some of those tweets, let's put them up on the screen. This one says, well, that depends on a variety of issues, as does the stability of a one-party majority government, but coalition governments are very established, stable and uncontroversial form of rule in many democracies. And I think the person says, Denmark, we have never really tried anything else. Okay, actually, that's the ambassador of Denmark to South Africa. And then this one from Duduzu says that for South Africa will never work and it's delaying service delivery. It may work for Denmark. For us, it is a disaster. Colleen, quick response.
Thank you so much. I just so wish that the DA had really brought us somebody intellectually capable to handle this debate, because what Soli is doing is really dragging us down to their DA petty supremacy and wanting to sound intelligent when he's just a front that is sent by the DA to come and distract us. The fact of the matter is that they are constitutionally wrong. Number one, enforcing councillors to vote in nothing else but according to the oath of office that we have signed and the constitution of this land that gives us the democratic right to make a conscious decision in council. There is no amount of coalition agreement that can underwrite that. My party, COPE, we stand in defense of the Constitution, and my president fought his whole life to ensure that we enjoy this freedom, and he has told me that nobody, not even a coalition, must take that freedom away from you.
Do you have a copy of the letter that was sent to you?
No, I don't have a copy because I'm not going to provide the copy. That's
but
what
it
I'm
does
saying.
Exist.
It does exist.
Okay.
And also that they're instructing all other parties, not only COPE that voted against them. It's 5 parties that voted in the coalition against them, or 5 councillors. They've been instructed to be fired, to be removed. That's why they want to interdict the meeting, so that by the time we get to the motion of the mayor, they've removed councillors who are not voting cows. We are not cheap black votes. We are councillors duly elected, and we are able to make decisions.
A solid, quick response.
Well, I'm not going to go into the petty politics of Colleen and want to test each other's intellectual capabilities, because I don't think we'll be able to match each other. That is none of the point at this juncture. But I want to say the following: that the ANC has recently been to Germany themselves to learn how coalitions work, and I want that to dispute that point, because they know that South African government or South African politics are going to be politics of coalitions. That is the way that things are going to go. And this is what the people of South Africa are going to push us, whether we like it or not, in political parties. This is what is going to happen. But I want to also then...
I need you to quickly wrap up that point, Soli, because we're running out of time.
Yes. What I want to also say to you is that Colleen can, come and throw all race a manner of arguments and want to sound as petty as she's sounding right now, or try to, make it look like it's not about her betraying her own party and the coalition parties. I want to challenge you, Eldrin. Call any of the coalition partners and find out if they have been pushed into a corner by the DA or by any other party into making decisions. Then
we'll do that tomorrow on SFM. Quickly, Pule.
Yes, Aldrin, just quickly to assist Soli.
We've got like 30 seconds.
Yes, to assist Soli and others who are watching, that coalition agreements do not constitute an oath. They are just an arrangement on how you are going to be governing as a multi-party establishment. It does not constitute an oath. So the DA must appreciate from this point that they did not win power to govern Johannesburg. A point we made, even afterwards, never have we sought to object the DA assuming power. Theatrics that happen in local legislatures have got nothing to do with the ANC. The ANC has never sent anyone to go and disrupt the
All
meeting
right,
of council.
unfortunately, guys, we've run out of time. Thank you so much, Colleen Pule, as well as Mr. Msimang, as they've been referring to you throughout this interview. Solely there. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for choosing us this evening. My name is Aldrin Simpier Totsins. Enjoy the rest of your evening.